10 moms. I'm just kidding, guys. You know that I haven't talked to my mom in years. She's crazy. But this girl has 10 moms. We're gonna see if this is a true story or not. Sounds like one of the craziest things ever. Let's see if it's true.
3 months ago, I was home alone when someone rang the bell of my house. My parents were not at home, and I haven't invited anyone.
What are you watching, girl?
50 Shades? I mean, this is like 100 Shades of Grey. Jeez.
I wondered whether I should open the door or not. My friends never come unannounced to my house. It was 10 p.m., so it was dark and
10 p.m. watching 50 Shades of Grey, has 10 moms. This is off to a wild start.
quite creepy.
What?
Yet I was extremely curious to see who came to visit me late that night.
Yeah, no, that's not what I'm gonna do. Someone rings my doorbell. I'm actually barricading it and locking it 16 more times. I ain't doing that.
Finally, I decided to check who it was.
Mistakes
I
were made,
opened
girl.
the door and saw a young and especially handsome man. I was stunned. I truly believe that this was the mysterious prince that I have been waiting for all my life.
Now, what if this man happened to not be a handsome man? What would the reaction be then? It would be way different. I think it'd still be different. This is kind of spooky. I see a handsome girl. I'm scared.
In just 2 minutes, I came up with hundreds of theories of why he is here.
Hundreds
Can
of-
you relate to the
jeez.
imagination of a 20-year-old single girl? Nonetheless, I wasn't able to say a word, so we both were just looking at each other. And you won't believe what happened next. He said, "Sorry to bother you, but my tire blew out. Are you alone, or is there anyone that may help me?"
Yeah, that's not sus at all. What are you doing, ladies? If a dude comes up to your house at 10 p.m., I don't care how handsome he is, he says, "Hey, my tire blew out." By the way, are you alone right now at 10 p.m. at night?
Oh, you're watching 50 Shades of Grey.
I guess he was referring to my dad or another stronger figure. Anyhow, here's when I got scared. Reality hit me and I suddenly became aware that he can rob me, kidnap me, or even do something worse.
Yeah?
And I am sure that he noticed the change in my attitude. I was as pale as a cloth. To calm me, he took a step back on the porch and decided to spill the truth. He said, "I'm not going to hurt you."
I've had this exact same scenario happen to me. I'm walking through the park at night at school. I'll be behind a girl and she'll like freaking shine a flashlight on me and just stare at me as I walk by. The weirdest thing, I'm like, yo, I'm gonna walk around like a mile just to make sure you don't feel uncomfortable. Yeah, I'd be scared. This girl, I don't know.
Need you to listen to me. I was about to slam the door in his face, but something kept me waiting. So I decided to hear what he had to say. He began the story by explaining that he was looking for me for months.
Okay, now that is where you get a little bit sus. Why would he wait till 10 p.m. to find you and then apparently lie about the tire unless he actually did blow his tire out? But still, why come so late? Get a hotel.
However, he didn't want to scare me, so he came by as a random stranger at my
What?
door. I
At
almost
night?
fainted when I heard this.
That's
Was
scary.
he a maniac? A psychopath who has followed me for a long time?
That's scary.
No, he was my long-lost brother. What a turn of events. All my life, I believed that I was the only child. I never had anyone to share my secret.
Her dad legit looks like the most handsome man I've ever seen in my life. I'm just gonna say that. He's a handsome looking man.
My parents were always spoiling me, as I was the only center of their attention. Can you imagine the emotions I went through when I heard this? A brother? A 24-year-old, tall and handsome brother.
I just want to say, first off, you need to get over your brother. You need to move on, find someone else. Second off, has anyone ever had this happen? If you've ever had this happen and found out that you have a secret sibling, then let me know. I'm curious.
Anyhow, the story gets even more complicated.
No kidding.
I finally decided to invite my brother inside,
What if he's lying? He didn't prove anything to you. He could still be a maniac.
but he didn't want to share the story of how we were related. At least not until my parents came home. I could notice the confusion on his face. He thought I knew I had a brother. That's why he wanted to wait for my parents, or should I say, our parents. 2 cappuccinos later, my mom and my dad finally arrived at midnight.
Dang, why is this all taking place so late? My dad goes to bed at like 7 p.m. He will not wake up at midnight, and even if there's a meteor coming down. That China satellite comes down, my dad's sleeping through it. He don't care.
Mind you that there was a stranger in our living room. It was obvious that my parents didn't even know who he is. Their first assumption was that he was my boyfriend, and oh my gosh, here we go again. My protective father always
Oh man, this is so weird. There's a lot of weirdness going on here. I do like the background gradient though. It looks like a nice little sunset vibe at midnight.
At the end of the day, I was his little princess. So I can understand the reasons for his actions. He was about to fight my brother when he said, "Stop it. You know who I am. I am about to tell her." Long story short, we all managed to calm our frustration and sat on the couch. Suddenly, my mom started crying. I have never been more confused in my
it must be
entire
an affair,
life. She
right?
said, "I hope that what we are about to tell you won't make you love or appreciate us less." I
Oh, maybe they had a baby and adopted.
assumed that They gave my brother for adoption and they didn't want me to judge them. I instantly developed my theory that they were young and panicked. Apparently, I was about to forgive them. But believe me, when I say I was far from the truth.
Okay, that was a little bit weird. You just see those little ghostly maidens walk by with two babies and then swap places?
My mom was stuttering. Still, she wanted to be the one that reveals the whole story. She began by telling me about her pregnancy with me. She didn't even mention my long-lost brother. When I asked her why she is skipping that part, she answered, "You will understand." Apparently, there was an earthquake on the day when I was born. Can you guess how this justifies my newly discovered brother? To be more specific, I was born in our local hospital.
Yep.
My mother was struggling for days before I decided.
Wow, they sure make childbirth very appealing. I can't wait to have a baby one day.
Obviously, I was indecisive even in the womb. It's a characteristic of mine that explains many actions I have taken in my life. Anyway, I was born in June. On this particular day, 16 other babies were born in the same hospital.
16 seems like an extremely low number to me. Now, I'm not a baby doctor, nor will I ever be one, but I feel like a hospital this size would pump out 50 to 100 a day. That's my guess. Seems like a production style. That's a good guess.
It's not many, but as I said, it's a small town. And I should be lucky that there weren't more babies at the moment.
Okay.
I know it sounds
So hold up, now there's only 15 babies and you still somehow got swapped in an earthquake? This just doesn't make sense. Where did the 10 moms come in?
confusing, but you will understand when I finish the story.
Okay.
During the conversation, my mom told me, as you already know, all babies look alike. Can you imagine my shock
I
at the
don't know.
moment? My own mother couldn't tell me apart. Does this explain my long-lost brother?
How does that make sense?
I wish it did,
so
but the reality was
What?
far worse. When my mother gave birth to me, she held me in her hands.
Okay.
Like any other mother, she wanted to smell me, to hug me and hold me tight. My father was right beside her during the whole journey. They were
Wow.
thrilled that they had a daughter.
Look at
All
that.
their lives, they dreamed of having a girl.
Wow.
That's why I am as spoiled as I am.
That's
they
adorable.
truly gave me everything I ever wished for.
I wonder what that's like.
From the fanciest clothes to the most expensive toys. But that's
Wow.
not what makes
Good
my
for you.
parents
You got a little
special.
Rudolph there.
They have always listened to me, dedicated their time and full attention to my concerns, and
Talk about making a man jealous, folks. I am absolutely jealous of this life right now. That's
my
crazy.
mom and dad
Wow.
love me unconditionally.
That's
And they
great.
always will.
Okay.
So what could have happened on my birthday to make my mother so anxious? Is there anything that can stop me from loving them for a lifetime? Back to the story. My mother had to give me to the medical nurses. Then I was placed together with the other babies. This is the usual hospital procedure, so I still couldn't spot the problem.
Well, they do be looking the same. Look at that. They're about exactly identical.
But as I mentioned before, there was an earthquake at the hospital. The important fact is that everyone survived this disaster. There were
Okay.
no victims in the accident. Well, except the sacrifice of the truth. I and the rest of the 16 babies were tangled together and transferred to a safe place. The issue is that the hospital didn't keep good track of our identities.
Okay.
There weren't any available DNA tests at the moment, so
Oh, wow. I wonder how often that happened. I feel like the odds of one of you watching probably got swapped and you just don't know about it and you never will. Like, think about that. It's probably likely.
they decided to keep this as
Could
a
be you.
secret. For years, the parents weren't aware of this issue. They believed that the hospital gave them their baby. More specifically, there were 10 female and 7 male newborn babies.
Interesting.
After a few years, the truth came out.
Uh-oh.
But it was already too late. The
Uh-oh.
parents have developed strong relationships with their children.
Dude, that would be so weird.
I wonder if there's any stories like in the news of this happening.
Parents didn't want to put me through such a stressful situation from a young age. After
Wow.
all, they loved me as I am their own.
I mean, I feel like on one hand, obviously you would still love your kid. Like, I'd be like, oh yeah, I still love you. I'm not getting rid of you. But then on the other hand, I'd like really want my other kid back. I'd be like, well, I want my baby back. Like, wouldn't you? Like, I feel like you would.
Even if I was not. As shocking as it sounds, I was then made aware that I have 10 mothers.
Okay, now that part does not seem to be related at all. Did we just skip a couple steps here? How do we go from earthquake babies to 10 mothers? Where's the, what?
I didn't blame my parents, not even for a second.
Okay.
I was just shocked by this new information. Can you imagine finding out that you have 9 more mothers?
How? How does this make sense?
I know that I can only have one mother and one father. But who are they? Individuals with other values and daily habits. No matter the
Well,
case.
obviously they've got different habits. I feel like that's pretty. I don't know. Maybe they're exactly the same. but
I
feel like
cannot
it's unlikely.
imagine what my mom and dad feeling at that moment. Maybe they thought that I would leave them for my real parents. Little did they know, I have always seen them as my only family. Now, back to the story of my long-lost brother. I'm sure that you are questioning why he was looking for me. His
Yes.
adventure began when he met a girl at the same age as his sister, or the girl he was living with. At
Okay, this is about to get really confusing, I think.
this stage, we're unaware of who is
Yeah, okay.
related and who is not. When he met the girl, he instantly felt a connection. They started talking and
A good
bonding.
connection or a
After a
brotherly
while,
connection?
he discovered that she was born on the same date and in the same hospital as his sister.
Ooh,
It was
weird.
simply too big of a coincidence.
Okay.
He spent months on research and he came upon the hospital's
I feel like I would do that too. I'd spend months researching, but I'm confused. Is he dating? Do they feel a relationship connection, a sibling connection, just a spiritual connection?
secret. Then he decided to face his parents with the truth. He asked them whether the girl living with him was truly his relative. Even though this was a well-kept secret, his parents decided to reveal the story. Like my parents, they were also introduced to the problem several years after my birth. It was at that particular moment when my brother promised to spread the truth to all 17 babies. He didn't want to participate in this
So she's calling him her brother. Is it just because they were born the same day? They're just assuming that he's her brother, or is he actually blood related to her brother?
huge manipulation. So instead of keeping us in the dark, he was dedicated to uniting us all. It is little to say that he was our hero. However, I cannot explain how I felt at the moment.
Sure.
It was honestly chaos of emotions. I felt anger, sadness, happiness, but ultimately I was thankful for the truth. But what path should I have chosen? I couldn't decide whether to ignore the facts or go looking for my biological parents. I was 20 years old, and I had no idea who I was, where I come from, and who are my parents.
Wow, if that isn't relatable. I feel like when I was 20, I'm sitting there in my room and I'm like, who am I? Who am I? What is my purpose? It was like 25 and I was finally like, okay, I'm good now. I've gone through that part of my life.
These past 3 months have been a roller coaster of emotions. Now, you're asking yourself why I didn't immediately take a DNA test. It sounds
Yes.
really simple,
Uh-huh.
but you wouldn't feel that way if you were in my shoes.
Why not?
My parents weren't the only ones who were frightened of the truth. I thought that once they discover that I'm not their child, they would abandon me. At the
Oh, okay. So you've got this concern they'll abandon you and they're probably afraid that you'll abandon them. So I understand. That makes sense. Sure.
moment, I was scared of reality. It was
Yeah.
easier to ignore the issue and live in a world of my own. However, there is an end to every fantasy. The ultimate question that determined my destiny was, what if I fell in love with a relative? What would happen if I met my long-lost brother on the street?
So now you can't love anyone the rest of your life, obviously, or move out of your city. I mean, there's two options here.
I would be unaware that we were associated with him. And at this age, one thing leads to another. No one can guarantee my safety if I choose to live in a bubble. So I decided to be brave.
What?
To discover my roots and true identity. I
Good.
wanted to know which of the 10 women is my biological mother. I must admit, it wasn't easy taking the test. Both I and my parents went through a tough period.
That seems like an immense amount of blood for this test. I don't know if that's how much is needed, but they drained you.
My whole life was a lie. These people I have been living with for the past 20 years weren't my biological parents.
Wow.
This means that I may have a brother or a sister that I am unaware of.
This is kind of depressing, like to think about, but in a way, the music makes me feel happy, so I'm confused.
I had the contacts of most babies born in the local hospital on the same day, many of which made DNA tests and confirmed the relationship to their parents.
Sure.
Anyhow, he didn't manage to find all female babies. One of them was nowhere to be found. As
Oh.
lucky as I am, it was probably the baby I had been switched with. So, what was I supposed to do now? My parents were supportive of my actions. They wanted to meet their child as well. But as I mentioned before, my mother took this worse than I thought. She
I feel most bad for the parents. Like it's not really their fault. Should they have told her sooner? Maybe, but like I don't know.
started struggling with anxiety and depression. Each day when I left the house to look for my biological mother, I felt that I was breaking her heart a little bit more.
Aw.
Each day that I came closer to the truth,
That's so
I
sad.
moved farther away from my mom. So once again, I had to choose. We make numerous decisions each day. This is what makes us different. This is what builds our personality and
So true.
overall image. Everyone says that as you age, you face more delicate decisions.
Why do I feel like I'm getting like actual life advice? I didn't come here for life advice. This feels like actually good.
As you age, your problems become bigger and your childhood concerns seem funny to you.
Wow, that is actually true. You know, I'm 26 now. I look back. No, it's not true. You remember when I was in high school and they didn't give me Bosco sticks when I wanted extras? That's just still a big problem today.
Nonetheless, I never thought that my life would turn into a tragedy of this type.
Yeah?
I never thought that reality may be as harsh as mine. You wouldn't believe what I have discovered. I was searching for a long time. I went to the hospital. I went through all town records and social networks.
Wow.
I did everything in my power to find my family.
She's even carrying that desk around with her to all these
I
locations.
wanted to meet the girl that has been living my life for the past 20 years. I had an open conversation with my mom. I told her that she will always have a special place in my heart. She has and will forever remain my mother. In the end, she understood why I had to take this step.
Okay.
So we decided to go to the police together. We were both ready to face
What if they get to the police station? There's like a bag with like a body in it. They're like, so we found her. She's dead.
the truth.
I hope it doesn't do that, actually. I'm sorry.
We thought that the story couldn't get worse, but when we
Look at
got
the
to the
cop.
police, we heard the most heartbreaking event of a lifetime.
what he
Both
sounds
my
like, you know it.
biological mother and the girl I had been switched with were in an accident 3 years ago. It was reported
Oh.
to the police, and that's how they tracked them. I think
Ew.
you already understand the disastrous end of my narrative. They were dead. The girl
Oh.
who has been living my life was no longer alive. I,
Dang.
the one that took her place, was living a fairy tale. My whole life, I got everything I wanted.
Yeah.
I had the best parents and most supportive
Oh
friends.
no, now she's gonna feel like she should be the one that died in the accident. This girl should be here. Uh-oh.
Should I be grateful that I was switched in the hospital, or should I blame myself
that's
for
actually
taking
kind
her
of, like,
place?
mess with your mind to
Both
think about.
I and my mother lost a part of ourselves when we heard the news.
Wow.
We got home and told everything to my father.
That's
He
crazy.
couldn't accept the truth as well. After all, their daughter
Oh.
was dead. It will take years for
Oh.
us to return to our regular lives. We will never be able to forget
Oh,
about the
wow.
family members we didn't get to meet. When
That's
it
actually
comes
so
to my
sad.
biological father, I will meet him in the future.
Oh my
At
gosh.
this moment, I'm not ready to reach out to him.
So
and
her
his new
dad's alive, but
family.
the-
After all,
oh my gosh.
he may not even know that I exist.
Wow.
I will take the time to reconnect with the people who
Wow.
have raised me. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if we have the same blood or not. They made me who I am.
Wow.
So they are my family.
If you guys enjoyed this video, though, click right here to watch another incredible Storytime animated reaction. You guys will absolutely love it. Go, 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 click, 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 click. Why are you still here? Click.